Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order, running a little bit late, it's 7:38. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, first meeting of the year, January 17th, 2024. I guess we'll go a little out of order. I think you all know it's Pam's last meeting. Very sad. Boo. Very happy. Stop. Very happy for Pam, of course, and you know, she all scampers out of here sometimes at 10:15, 10:30 at night for a very long drive home, and she is, you know, I've told you all I commuted to Hartford by car 3 days a week for a number of years. It's really rough, and how she's done this all these years and kept a smile on her face has been amazing to me. So we wish you the best in your new job, but still kind of annoyed with you.
It was a great journey. Absolutely great journey.
And we have a little something for you.
It's kind of big.
Oh,
you know how much you love
goodness.
plants, and we supported local and got you a giant fern from the Gardener Center.
Wow.
You have to keep it in the plastic bag because it is tropical in nature.
Yeah, you gotta
and
get it to the car carefully.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
Oh
welcome.
my gosh.
Thank you for everything.
Beautiful. I love it. And I'll think of you guys every time it's in my office.
You want to put it in that corner? You know, it's pretty heavy.
And I did have
Gorgeous.
a note from Adele, who is traveling and couldn't be here tonight. I know she sent Pam a note, but she did ask me to read it as public comment, but I think I'll do it now. And it says, as chairman of the RTM Parks and Recreation Committee, I'd like to thank Pam Geary for her service to the town of Darien, and particularly to our RTM P&R committee. We are a large committee, and I know that we have not always been easy to deal with. We appreciate your help with the budget, always answering our questions, of which there were often many, and giving me in particular the resources I needed to support the P&R budget. You have listened to us and helped us keep the RTM well informed while managing all of your other responsibilities. I cannot thank you enough. Pam, you have always been a professional. Nothing ever happens easily in Darien, but you have navigated the system and got things done. You have added great staff to a solid department, and together you have expanded our programs and enhanced our parks. Good luck with your new endeavor in Guilford. I know that you will not miss the commute, but know that you will be missed in Darien. Best Adele.
That was very nice.
You will be sorely missed.
Oh, thank you.
I second that.
Thank you, Kim.
We're gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss all the relationships I've made here. I've made some really good friends, and I'll miss all of you. It's really been an incredible journey here for me, and I needed Darien as much as, you know, I need the community here too. So, and it just kind of, it's such a great story, starting in my hometown, going to North Branford, coming to Darien, and then coming full circle home. So it's a good thing for me, and I'm ready to make some magic in Guilford as much as I've made some magic here. And it's been so great. Thank you guys for all the support too, because this was, I mean, Parks and Recreation took a curve, right? I mean, I've heard about past commissions, but the work that we have done here in the last 8 years has been tremendous. And I certainly couldn't have done it alone at all. So it was so great, each and every one of you having different pieces to the puzzle. It's been great.
We've been a good team.
Yep.
So Jim, looking to you to carry on the mantle while the search process goes on. And
Sure.
Jim is very experienced. He's been with the department for several decades.
Several years.
Yeah, several years.
Yeah.
So
All
we're
years. Thank you.
in good hands, and you know, we will carry on as the search process continues, and I'll just touch base on sort of what that will entail later during my chairman's notes. So, okay, let's pull it together. And that is the agenda for my last meeting. So, and we will do the minutes from our December 13th regular meeting. Okay. Anybody have anything? Kathy, I know you were good.
That was good.
Nobody have anything else? I didn't have anything. Okay.
Tamara rocks.
Tamara, yeah, Tamara.
Thank you, Tamara.
We'll be on maternity leave later this spring, so it's another scary time period, but we'll get through that as well. So can I have a motion to approve? Kathy, Mary Louise second, all in favor? All right, good to go. Okay, do we have any other public comment this evening? Susan Marks.
Good evening, my name is Susan Marks, I live at 39 Fairfield Avenue. I am on the RTM, but tonight I am speaking as a 34-year resident of Darien. I think the world of Chris Filmer. I think he's one of the most outstanding citizens in Darien, and I thank you for everything you've done. Having said that, I see on your agenda that there will be a new presentation. So I just implore you all to remember the conversation that you guys had last spring.
We can't hear Susan.
I just implore the commission to remember the conversation that took place last spring when many of you said Cherry Lawn is very congested, there's a lot of traffic, we really can't add anything new. You talked about a traffic study, so as you look at whatever this phenomenal presentation is, I just hope you remember that. You denied other things. I'm not saying you should deny or accept this, but it's hard to think about that you denied something and that you may do something new if it brings more cars and congestion before a traffic study is done. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, good. Okay, then we will go right into the presentation on a walking path at Cherry Lawn. I'm very pleased to have Chris Filmer with us, as Susan said. Your reputation, your wonderful reputation in town precedes you. You're one of our great naturalists in town, and your commitment to the community and our parks and our land trust have just been phenomenal. So we're always pleased to have you with us.
I think I have a good PR man because
That may be.
Can I do that, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just have to find the one tool,
The slideshow.
the slideshow. Okay. Can you press it?
Right, this one right here?
I actually,
No, do you have, oh, can you press it? Oh, you just press it on that screen. Oh, do you do it on? Is there a mouse that controls it?
let me do it on my screen if I can find it. Slide. I see slides, but I don't see
Keep on going.
slideshow.
Keep on going, to the right.
Oh, right here,
Just hit that button.
Here it is. Okay, yes?
Well, Pam said that she needed Darien. I think we needed her more than I can say, so.
Thank you.
Bless you and thank you for everything that you've done. This is actually something of a surprise because I know that the whole question of what happens in Cherry Lawn really belongs to the people that are running it, and I'm not running it. But what I did do was, it's going to become apparent here. I knew that there was a motion that you had that you would look at the question of what you did about quite a big chunk of invasive trees that existed here. And I think there were two other places that you were worried about as well.
Weed Beach was...
No, within Cherry Lawn there was the part behind the garden, I think, and there was a...
Can you turn the mic towards
And then near the
Chris?
lake.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. So I'm...
Thank you.
Okay, you're going to get tired doing that.
No, I'm not.
I'll try and speak up. But a year and a half after the time that we all got together and we walked around and examined what there was to be done, and you all worked very well to define it, and then one day I went out there and it gone. So the committee that did that, I don't know what you called it, the invasive
Working group.
working group, yes. hats off to you. Established. I went back actually 3 times because I was seeing parts of that I'd never seen before. I knew there was a stream behind the trees, and you could see it sometimes. But after they removed the trees from the, via the cleaning up of the invasives, it really sort of opened up a bit of a vista in there. And I took some photographs. I think we've got them here.
What?
No, just go back up. No, another one. These
That
two.
one? That's right there.
Oh, all right. Okay, and realized that I saw a tremendous amount of potential, not to necessarily to plant trees, although some would be welcomed, but to look at the area that's on either side of that yellow strip. And that's meant to represent where the removal of the invasives happened. But as I looked at it further and looked up that river there on the right, you see that one that's creeping up the right-hand side there, that is actually the Tokenique Brook, which starts north Darien and then it comes out through past here, it goes under the railway line, under I-95, comes out at Sellex Woods, that area, continues and goes down to Little Brook Road and then out, actually past my house, down to Tokenique Club. So it's quite a stream. That's a real brook. It's a live river. So there's always some water in there, and sometimes it expands. But I've got some better ones later of what's actually there. But you can see what I'm representing is that there's the pond that belongs more to the nature centre than anywhere else, and it is used. I think Victoria's here. You use it for entertaining the kids and so on. If you start, let's start down there. If you start at the pond, it's a big pond. It goes up towards the bridge, which is the old, on the left-hand side here, stone-arched bridge, which has existed for some time. People have played around it. It was refurbished, I think, a couple of years ago by some scouts. I've been on it. It's very firm. The rocks are firm on it. And if you go over that bridge, going backwards now, you join the main part that we're talking about. And you'll see that the river, when it gets down there, actually expands. So there are banks where it can gather before it goes through. So there's not a lot of flooding there because it's taken care of by the topography. But as you go up the hill, there are more and more huge trees lying across it, and it's difficult to get to. And it goes up to the top and crosses into a private residence before it continues up to the northern part of Darien. So my thought was, wow, that is a real feature, and it's never really been taken care of. There's stuff lying all over the place. It's not garbage, but it could clear up the banks a bit. And now you can go to. Didn't I have two of the actual side? Yeah, I did. Just past that.
Past this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I saw. It looks, muddy and grubby at the moment, but it's good soil. It's good growing potential. It's it's pretty clean. And then show me the next one. This is where it gets down to the, you see the, down the bottom here, this is the second bridge there. People who've been there know. So you can see it's already got green from, you know, accumulated mosses and things. And I wondered if we could think of, now that the invasive trees are out of the way, about making that a feature in a real legitimate eco-zone, which would be wetland where we could plant things. So can you go a little bit? Yeah, okay. This is shortcutting what I went through. Now I realized that this committee was involved there. So I just wrote a little something. I said, this didn't happen overnight. I thought about it a few days. That the removal of the invasives along the eastern boundary of the lawn provided an opportunity for us to build an interesting nature trail with a rewarding destination. The thought was, if we could get a trail going there, I mean, not a straight line like it's drawn on the map, but it weaves up there, you'd come to a platform of some kind, step onto the bridge, step over the bridge with your group of kids that you're with, and onto the island. Have you guys been to that little island there called Treasure Island?
So cute.
It's really cute. And there's some nice planting there. I don't know who did it, but it's wonderful. So, anyway, it finishes up here saying you finish at the Archstone stone bridge, and those who chose to cross the bridge are rewarded by reaching a secret island. And that's what stands on the official plan of this, which was an earlier plan. So I went home and I did some sketches, and I scribbled.
Want to go back to it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, next one. I scribbled this down, stuck a few pieces of paper on the short photographs, and dropped it off with Pam. I think you're the first person. So that's fun. One of these days we can do something like this. And anyway, Shirley came along, Susan came along, and Pam and other people saw it, and they said, this is something we could do something with. And then at that point we said, you know, I thought about it. I was trying to retire, and now took on another project on it. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we're here.
Do you want me to go down to this one?
Yeah. I just wanted to mention a few things about invasives, because this is a good opportunity to do so.
Go down to that?
Yeah, we finished with that.
Okay.
I don't know how many of you know anything about invasive species.
Yep.
But they are species that were never adjusted to any particular area. They are, most of them are from overseas, they don't belong here, and there's a real opportunity to ruin what you've got if you plant them. And I'll go a little bit into that later. That first one there, Tree of Heaven, it's a lovely name for a terrible plant. It grows so fast, and you plant, as the first one grows, another 5 come up on either side, and it'll grow in anything. I don't know if you've ever read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. And that's a tree of heaven coming up out of the subway through the water grill. So you can imagine what they can do if they get hold of your nice property with nice sand. The Japanese knotweed is another one, and I'm sure that you found some of those in there. And they are very fast growing. They literally take over wherever they are. We've got some near Sedex Woods, I don't know if you've seen those. They've all been whipped out of the ground, but that doesn't always guarantee. Because I've seen knotweed put its rhizomes, go under 30 feet of river and come up the other side. So they're very difficult to, to control. And some of these exude a kind of toxic substance, especially what they call, anyway, I'll come to that in a second. So these are not good, and just because you've cut them down, you haven't got rid of it, you could lose all the good plants you ever put in there. So just go another one, please. If you want to know what they can do, this is from Japan and Korea. This is a special, it's called a kutsu, and it can grow 60 feet a year, that's 6 stories. And you can get out of the forest and just cover it. But that's an invasive plant. Now ours aren't quite as bad as that, but it shows you what nature can do without being controlled in some cases. I wanted to just touch on this one thing, because this has relevance. There was a dust storm here in 1930, and it was in the middle of the country, in the beautiful areas of Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, where's the other place in the state? Anyway, it was an amazingly 10 million acres worth of property, which were the dream of any farmer. Farmers moved in, there was 6 feet of topsoil. And, of course, this was a famous event because it started by farming in the 20s with the mammoth machinery that were making wheat for the world. And, fortunes were made. They started farming these acres. People flocked in to take advantage of this opportunity. And then things started going wrong. Winds built up, first 5 miles an hour, then 20, and then 50. And slowly the soil, which had been farmed to death because they had 3 generations of people with this machinery that farmed the same land, unlike the Native Americans who would always give land a chance to grow and to refresh itself. And the next thing you knew, these mammoth dust storms came through. There was dust in 1931, 32, 33, 34, and in 35 they had a terrible one. This is dust storm approaching the town, and this would continue. People, if you slept in your bed in the morning, there'd be a mark where you were and the sand was. I mean, it was absolutely shocking. Eventually, 7,000 people died, and 2.5 million got up and left. They lost their farms, they lost everything. The sand was so high that it went up over the fences they had. So the animals that were caught there, all they had to do, like the cows, was to just walk up the bank and down the other side. So they all dispersed. The whole area went bankrupt, and it settled down. I know you think this was millions of years ago, but I was born in 1937, so it was close to that. But I was 8,000 miles away in Africa somewhere. The point was that it left behind land that was, if it had a foot of topsoil, it was a lot. So they tried to get things to grow, and it was very difficult. The nutrition was out of the ground, so some of the people that had been sort of heard about it said, we've got to find something we can plant here. And even though the government had tried to restrict it, people and the government would go overseas to the east, Japan, Korea, and even around to the Middle East, and get these plants, and lo and behold, they grew. They had nothing to attack them here, like they would maybe in their homeland. And the next thing, everybody was happy because multiflora rose and those sort of things were all growing. And then the problem, of course, started with trying to get a compatibility with insects who are so vital to birds. That's the protein that we finish up with all over the place, coming across that sort of situation. So that's where everybody says, how do we get so many invasive plants? That's what happened. Okay. Now this is just something I painted, but it was to remind me about the fact that nature and animals form pacts. They talk to each other. For example, that's a acacia tree that you see in places like Kenya and Central Africa. You know, they're umbrella trees. And you always see them on stamps and other sort of things. But what they do is they have lovely flowers at the top, actually fragrant flowers. And the only things that can get to them are giraffe with the long necks. And they have these 10-inch tongues, and they can just slop up the leaves and the petals of the flowers and feed themselves. And acacia trees love that because they're being pollinated. That's how they get pollinated. There are bees buzzing around doing it. Giraffe do it. However, as soon as it starts getting dangerous and they're losing too many leaves and flowers, the plants actually chemically change. And they send off an aroma that you could smell, and the giraffe certainly do. So they step away and they leave that tree alone. Quite recently they found out, they also tell the other trees nearby, hey, there's a giraffe in here, he's had his full, you know, get them out of here. And so they all move off and nature goes on. Giraffes happy, trees happy. So if you shot all the giraffe, you know, the acacia trees would die out and vice versa. So those sort of things are going on and we don't even know about them in a lot of what we do. Okay? Better get to the point. Okay, so I thought I'd take one more step and find out what we had around us geographically that did the sort of thing that we're talking about, which is basically wetland planting. I found this wonderful website. I thought it had to be out of California or somewhere. It's out of Norwalk, Connecticut. And we have some pictures here of what they can offer. This is what they, sort of thing that they're doing. So they're getting plants, planting them along Norwalk River, which is a decent sized river, and I made contact with them. Can you go to the next one? Because they better adapted to local environment, as we were saying, you don't have to water these guys. They're insect friendly. They build the bars that create the habitat and the food for organisms, and it's very low maintenance. And so I've been speaking to them. There are two groups. One is the government part of it there, another is a 501c3 organization, and they're very happy to come and show us if we ever wanted their help and give us the sources of plants that they can get. Okay? And here are some of the sort of things, blue flag iris, which is, as you know, the yellow iris are not good, but the blue ones are, right, Susan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's various other ones. They have another 10, 15, but I just took these as examples. And also, if you want to put in a green sort of lawny, not lawny, grass-like area, we can do that too. And they can even do shrubs. This is a 10-foot shrub. Could be something less than that. But if we wanted to do something at the back, if you're looking across the water on the other side, that's the sort of thing we could do. And they've also offered to give us some help starting up if we wanted to do that. And that's from them, not me.
I think that's the last slide.
I think that's it. Thank you.
That's it.
That's it.
Great, thank you, Chris. Questions for Chris? I know Mary
Yeah.
Louise, I know the Invasives Committee is very interested in learning
Correct.
more about this.
I'm anxious, thank you so much for doing this, Chris, and I'm anxious to share your presentation with the invasive working group.
Will do.
So, and working with you going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Any questions?
So we would be looking at creating a nature trail, is what we're talking about, right? Following what Chris showed up there would be the length of it, coming up along the pond, over the bridge, over to the island. Anywhere else, does it go further beyond that, or is that pretty much?
I think Chris talked about focusing on that area
that area?
first,
Yep.
because it's a very large park, and there's actually a trail that goes behind. I know the Nature Center uses it a lot, but he wanted to focus on that area particularly because it has a destination, and it's so close to the center of the playground, and the park, I should say. But we actually met with Victoria, she's back there, from the Darien Nature Center, and she talked to us about how much they use the space and how the kids just put on these rain jackets and coats and boots and stomp around and get dirty and just interact with nature. I mean, kind of what Chris is talking about, seeing what's out there. Chris also we had an Eagle Scout that actually is willing to help Chris when he's ready to do any trail work, so kind of like the heavy lifting, the chipping, or whatever needs to be done. So.
Well, it's your decision, but I would suggest that we use this year. It's good because we earlier, before the spring, choose a small area and try a few things out and see how we go.
There's somewhat of an overgrown trail back there right now.
You can walk there, I'll walk back there
Yeah, I
over the
walked
little
back there
bridge into
too.
the island.
Yeah, I did it when my son was at the nature center. But I remember walking around there. So it's kind of regenifying it and bringing it back.
Yeah, there's still some invasives back there. I mean, to be honest with you, there's multiflora rose still back there, even though they've done the clearing. There's definitely layers that can be worked on, but Chris saw that bridge and how beautiful it is and what a centerpiece it is to the park. And it was actually an Eagle project where David Ziga, I think it was, it's been so many years, I've been on the commission too long, like 6 or 7 years ago, repointed all that stone and made sure that all the stones were set in the cement properly on the bridge. So that's why it's in such great shape. So, and well loved now.
Yeah, I mentioned the trail only because I thought that if it could be connected to what the Nature Center already has, then it opens up another whole piece of land back there that they're using. Now it connects this, brings it over. And having the bridge exposed is really nice now. You know, that was kind of hidden. No one, I don't know who knew about it. So
I
it's
mean,
great.
yeah. There's actually, I walked there recently before we had this freeze, and skunk cabbage is coming up, you know what I mean? So there's some wetland plants already in there, so
Mhm.
there is life there, and I think getting rid of the invasives and bringing light in there helps a little bit too, and some air,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Again, I think it's great. The only thing as I'd bring up is a comment that Susan made, that we as a committee said that we would do this study, and I think we're gonna do it anyway in the
yeah,
spring,
we are,
aren't we?
we are.
So that we can have something to back it up to say that, you know, we did the study, we're adding something to the park that's going to be really beneficial.
Just one, but we put it in the budget, it hasn't got approved yet.
Oh, okay, okay. So
And that
just,
wouldn't
just to
be
dot all
till
the
next
i's, I
year,
guess, is
till-
what I'm saying.
Right.
Till after,
July 1st.
if it's approved.
Okay.
I guess the question I would have for Chris and Susan is, how much do we characterize this as really remediation of what's there now as opposed to really something new? Because I mean, there are paths back there now. I mean, my husband and I went and walked it. I was with him one day, we found the little bridge, went over the island, and he's like, oh my God, this is such a cute, you need to create a sense of place here. You know, just, but you can get back, so is this remediation or is this
It's
really
like
something
enhancement,
new?
I
I
think.
mean, we're
It's-
hearing from Victoria, they're taking the kids back there
Already.
already. So I think we need to understand that balance of, you know, is this really just, you know, we cleared the land, and we're gonna have to think about this as we can continue with the wonderful invasives work. We're creating more parkland, then what? So we're clearing it out, we have to start working on, now what do we do with that land to get the proper kind of plantings and such in there? So how do you feel about that balance between this is remediation versus something new?
I saw it as an enhancement of the space. I mean, it's like you said, it's being used now and well regarded, especially by the nature center, but I think that non-nature center, you know, visitors, they don't really know that's there. And by delineating a path and kind of having more education about it, the kids that currently use the park can go there. It's not just nature center. People coming for a baseball, you know, watching their younger sibling or older sibling go play baseball, they can go, let me go walk over there. I don't think it's gonna bring a huge amount of traffic, to be honest with you. I think what it is it's gonna provide an amenity that enhances the park user's experience.
Well, people that are occupying, you know, either the playland area, tennis, anybody walking there now has an ability to absorb a nature experience, which otherwise they just walk down the lawn and can play tennis or something. So it's an additional feature that we haven't really built. It's there.
We're just cleaning it up, you know. We're making it. We're
Purposing it.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think it's going to bring, to be honest with you, just from the I hear Susan. I always appreciate her comments. I don't think we're going to get a huge drove of people that are going to come use the space just for that.
Well, I guess my only question is, I don't hear any hardscape being proposed here, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nature trail that is just cleaning things up and, you know, enhancing the ecosystem in you know, installing wetland,
Plants.
you know, plants. So I almost feel like this is more of a invasives, you know, remediation effort that is kind of necessary. But as long as there's not like hardscape trails being proposed, you know.
I think there might be a couple of, Chris is still looking into it, and he could talk to the scout if, you know, they need, there's a wet spot by the bridge, right, at the, you know, base, they might do something there with wood, like that would be natural, so that, you know, you can kind of not, I mean, I know kids don't mind getting dirty, but not all the visitors might appreciate getting muddy feet.
Right, but the entire trail is.
Like a diller.
Yeah, something raised maybe, it depends on
is
what,
that-
you know.
Like a nature trail.
The entire trail's gonna be a nature trail, it's not gonna have
No,
stone.
no stones ever.
Yeah.
It's still gonna, it's gonna
Path.
be wood, and that's something that's to be determined, I think, too, whatever Chris thinks, because he's, I mean, you've been on some of his trails at Selleck's Woods, they're, you know, amazing, and at the bird sanctuary, so I think we'll figure out something appropriate.
And natural looking, maybe log rail.
Yeah, log rails.
And not a big fuss about it. It certainly shouldn't look formal.
Yeah,
Like it's been there
Between the
forever.
still nature.
right. It probably would need to be like cleaned up, you know, after the fall
Yeah.
leaves and everything and wood chips.
I think, you know, for, Mary Louise's committee has a lot of, you know, Laura Mosher is a master gardener, and so is Joanne, and, you know, they can kind of help with the planting decisions too. They're very good, I mean, experts, like, you know, work in concert, and meet your Norwalk contacts, who sound amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, we could work together as a community, you know, and learn from each other. A lot of possibilities.
Because you mentioned wetlands, so we already think, do we need to get any kind of EPC approval?
We can check that.
I think we need to check that.
I know that they always ask that we put in certain plants that's on a list.
I would
typically.
just, like,
Yeah, but we will circle there.
yeah, I want to circle there and make
Yeah,
sure.
EPC, you think?
I'm
Mhm.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to Rick.
Rick.
I'm looking at Pam, got to look at Jim. You know, as we flesh this out, we need to,
It's probably good to know for
talk to
going
Rick.
forward. You know, for our other projects too.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally fair.
You know, just, anytime the word wetland comes up, like,
Every
antenna
day.
goes up. So Mary Louise, is this something you think you could circle back, schedule a meeting of the invasives committee?
Well, we have a regularly scheduled meeting, usually it's the day before Park and Rec, and,
Or rather than wait another month, because that was supposed to be this week?
no, it would have been like yesterday.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it would have been this week, so
Right,
rather
so we
than
can
wait another month.
schedule a vote in a month, let's say.
No, but can you schedule a meeting of invasives sooner than the next regularly scheduled meeting?
I could try to
You could do a
that.
special meeting.
I could try to do that.
Or she can forward the items to them and start getting feedback, I mean, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and or, you know,
Yeah.
we'd go over, spend a time to go over and walk it,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
really, so people can, you know, really visualize and,
All right, I will try to schedule that.
okay, cool.
This is
May I
terrific.
ask a question?
Okay.
Can I ask a question? That,
Can you,
where
so
the-
you
Oh,
identify
hi,
yourself?
I'm Lindsay DeVito, 70 Fitch Avenue. That end where the Tokenique Brook comes out into the pond, where the bridge is to Treasure Island, is there any consideration about dredging out that area a little bit? Because it's very congested with leaves and sticks, especially before you get to the bridge, just on that end. Is there any thought about doing that or cleaning out the pond a little bit itself there?
Pam, is that still in capital, doing
Yeah, we
dredging Tilly?
We had looked to get
You're
a
talking to
dredging price.
I mean
but
Tilly,
that
I mean,
hasn't happened
Cherry
yet.
Lawn.
At Cherry.
Sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's something being
It's a
considered.
6-year plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, awesome.
But it didn't make it in this one.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I thought we were gonna try to fast track it because of the tree that's in the pond.
Sandy's still trying to get a number on that.
The dredging or the tree? I thought the tree.
Getting the tree removed, because he was looking at a company that would dredge, and then that could actually do the tree at the same time.
Yeah,
Not
so-
two separate projects, so he just is
Oh, it's
having,
one project then, if he does that?
if he can get the contractor
To do
to
both?
answer him. He's
Okay.
he's having a hard time.
Because that would
getting it.
answer what Lynn actually just asked for, which is dredging that
Mhm.
area.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Because
Follow
that
up with
tree is a
Sandy.
big,
Because
it's a
it,
big tree.
no, we got a bid already to do it, just the tree, and I think it was pretty significant, which is part of
It's
the
a
reason.
big price for that tree removal,
It's
so.
a crane.
Yeah.
They do the crane, yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let's not
Thank you.
digress too
Okay.
much of that. Okay. Any other? Okay, so we won't vote on this tonight, we put that in just in case, but I think we need to have some more homework we want to do, keep working with
Yeah.
Chris, Susan,
Yeah,
invasives committee,
yeah.
We'll
check with EPC, come up with a plan, then also to the extent, you know, we're talking about putting plantings in, we have to
Yeah, confirm.
determine, you know,
Yeah.
how we're gonna fund those, whether we're gonna use beautification budget or whatever, so we have a number of steps
Correct.
Got it.
to go in terms of how we think about this. Okay, but, you know, in terms of sense of the meeting, people feel this is something we should keep pursuing and looking at,
think it's
what
a
would
good idea.
entail, what would
We
entail.
got a new part of the park back by removing the invasives. So let's, you know, make it even better.
The land that's behind the nature center now, that is Parks and Rec, that's,
Park
Was
Land
it-
Trust.
Part of it's
Park and
land
Rec.
trust.
oh, okay.
It's a mix.
I mean, I've gone back there forever with my kids, but I never knew if it was Parks and Rec or if it was an extension of the nature center, so it's,
It's definitely Park and Rec where the trail is, but then beyond that is Land Trust.
okay.
Good.
There are markers out there.
Mhm. Let's try think so.
Great,
Sounds like.
thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
You're certainly welcome to stay or go home and tuck it in for the night. And thank you also,
Thank you so much.
visitors from the Nature Center. I appreciate you being here as well because we know you're big users of the property and the paths. And I know when I'm in the park, so cute seeing all the little guys and
Yeah.
trotting around the park and exploring. And so it's really a joy to see what you do with them. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we are going to stay on Cherry Lawn. And next we have the Cherry Lawn Gardeners here to visit us. And Mary Louise, as we know, is an avid member of the Cherry Lawn Gardeners. But we also have with us tonight Tricia Connolly and Elaine Scott, who are going to give us a little bit of background. Because honestly, we haven't had a lot of discussions over the years about the gardens. We kind of know they're there. So we thought it'd be fun for the commission to get up to speed for a few minutes on the history and what's going on over there. And then, as you know, when we did our rules update, we realized that our published rules really did not address the gardens in any way, and we added a little language in there about those. But also, the gardens themselves have their own kind of set of rules, and we thought that it would be important that we really knit together the rules they have in place and make sure that they've been accepted, by the commission because, it is park property. So we're going to have our presentation, and then we distributed. We did some work together over the last few months to update the rules, address some issues that came up over the last couple of years, whatever. So we'll talk them, not go through them item by item, but maybe hit on a couple of key decision points that we need the commission to weigh in on. So Tricia and Elaine, you're gonna need to come up front.
On the podium?
Because TV 79 needs to be able to see you.
If you can come this way.
You're gonna have to come this
We'll
way,
get this
so you have to
cords.
climb over the cords.
Yes.
You're on the hot spot.
We have no visuals.
That's okay.
That's for those at home that are watching.
Okay, this is Tricia Connolly right here. She is our current secretary for the Cherry Lawn Garden Committee. It consists of 4 people, Tricia, myself, Elaine Scott, who is the treasurer, and Dorothy Shergalis has been our fearless leader for a number of years, and she knows everything that's going on. And also Jim Brewer is our vice president, we'll call it, for lack of a better term. And I understand going forward that Mary Louise will be the chairman of the group, the overseer.
Correct, reporting back to Park and Rec. Yes.
Okay, that sounds great to have that.
Because we're going to, later in our business tonight, we're going to talk about, really formally appointing our current standing committee. So the Cherry Lawn, there'll be a, subject to vote, be an official committee. All of our committees are chaired by, a member of the commission, but then of course, I know you guys have all worked very tightly and hard on it, so we want to keep that structure as well. We didn't want to disrupt that.
It seems to make sense because when you're thinking of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Cherry Lawn's 50th anniversary is next year. Amazing. And we have a picture within our records of the original Cherry Lawn plot sectioning and all the names that were in there. And it is just run beautifully in a very casual, family-style, community-oriented kind of a way, with all kinds of people joining together, old, young, people who are new to Darien, or people who are longtime residents, people who have just started gardening, people who are veterans at that as well. And it's just been a joy to be there and to walk in, and no matter who you are in the town or anywhere else, you walk in your old clothes, you get your hands in the dirt, and everybody is equal, and everyone helps each other, shares some chores. If somebody's sick or has broken a bone or something, people just kind of jump in and help take care of things. It's a wonderful little microcosm of our world. And I love seeing the kids in there learning about how to garden, because I do think that's a skill almost everybody should have, just in case. I have a little statement here from Dorothy, which really goes over the who, the what, the where, very quickly, briefly. These are her words. Since 1975, the community gardens located in Cherry Lawn have been managed by volunteer members of the garden. At present, Dorothy Chagallus has been serving as the president since 2011, along with Jim Brewer as the assistant vice president. Elaine Scott is the treasurer, and Tricia Connolly is the secretary. The town has always been a supportive partner by providing electricity and water to the gardens. For this reason, gardeners pay $20 to the town each year to have those available. Additionally, each gardener is required to sign a contract that outlines their responsibility to remain in good standing as a gardener. So there are some rules in place so everything runs smoothly. They also pay $10 to CLG, the Cherry Lawn Garden Committee, for incidental expenses required to run and maintain the gardens. That would be things like fixing the fountain when that goes bad, or getting some varnish for the bench, or whatever, small expenses. In 2025, the community gardens at Cherry Lawn will complete 50 years of existence, and all are invited to join us to celebrate this milestone. That's her statement. I think that covers most of the basics for anybody who hasn't been there in a while. I think you all know where it is. Maybe you've walked by there yourself, but you're welcome to come anytime. The Nature Center kids are there frequently, looking through, playing scavenger hunt games and things like that. And there was a wonderful article in the Darien Times in 2020, July 24th, I think, about Cherry Lawn Garden with wonderful pictures, if you'd like to go to see those, but we didn't feel we should put those up tonight. It's not our work.
Elaine, Tricia, tell everybody how many, because not everybody, how many plots there are.
Approximately 60. That changes a little bit because someone with a large plot may decide to share with someone else if it's a little bit too much. They're a very manageable size, which is great for seniors or families that don't have a lot of time, but that does change.
Okay. And the tenure of some of the gardeners, I know there's some folks who've been there.
I don't know who's the longest one. I would say, can I say names? Maybe? I think Tom Dunn was there forever, for a very, very long time, and he acted as the treasurer up until last year, and he's enjoyed it all these years.
So the people have been there for decades?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, and people have been there for 1 year. So we have a variety of people there, which makes it fun. It's a very diverse group.
There's a long wait list.
There is right now. That is burgeoned in the last couple of years. I don't know if it's because people are catching on that a garden is a good thing, or there's...
And combined maybe with less turnover.
Possibly, though we lose...
Like three, how many?
I think it's at least 5, somewhere between 5 and 10. I see on Dorothy's list that she had that there were people that signed up maybe in 2020, and we're down about 10 people from there. So it does take a while. I waited 3 years. I don't know how long you had to wait, but
about 3 years.
But
I think it waits longer now.
I think it is too, and it may be. There's more condos, and there's more apartments. There's more people moving out from New York, and they may be trying it for the first time. Sometimes the people who are just trying it out decide they just can't devote the time. It is a lot of work, so they just can't make it. Their families sometimes come in and they want to start a family project, but then the sports, everything else gets in the way, and it's just not really manageable for them. So some people are in for 1 year and then they're gone again. Yes, but it's a wonderful thing. I'm very happy that it's catching on. Maybe there could be another community garden elsewhere, in case we find a big plot of land somewhere.
If you do get a plot, my understanding is you have 2 responsibilities. One is you need to limit the number of weeds. You don't necessarily need to plant anything. Of course, that's what we would hope everyone would have a flourishing garden, but that you would control the weeds. So of the land or piece of property that you get, you can't have more than 25% of it as weeds. Certainly we hope it would be less than that, but the garden is inspected several times a year for the weeds. And then you are also responsible for keeping the 2 sides of your plot along the paths free of weeds. So you have to weed that, and then there's, in the spring they bring in wood chips, and so ideally everyone will take some of the wood chips and cover their 2 sections of the path, and that keeps down the weeds. So there's a little bit of an investment of your time that's really required to keep up the plot and your path surrounding it. Yeah.
Did you say it was an annual membership?
What?
Is it an annual fee?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so at the end of the year, do you guys evaluate, like, somebody's not keeping up theirs, then
About 4 times.
Or whatever, and then
4 inspections during the summer.
Okay.
And one of Dorothy's duties, an unenviable one perhaps, is if someone does have an issue, they haven't started the garden at all, the weeds are overgrowing or whatever, she'll send them an email right away and say, you know, you're falling a little short. Next inspection's in about a month. You want to call me and let me know what's going on if there's an issue, if someone's sick or whatever. And if an issue arises, generally what happens is other gardeners chip in. If they know that someone has a burden of some type and can't keep things up, everyone's great about it. If you know that you're going to be away for 2 weeks, check with your neighbor. You make a lot of friendships there, and they tend to turn, I think, into long conversations, and you know people you would never have known in town without this vehicle for being there. You never know who it's going to be. As well, speaking to the volunteers, there's a long list of chores. Somebody manages the shed, makes sure that that keeps nice and neat. Somebody manages the hoses. If something's springing a leak, you run out and get the little connectors and fix that thing. So everyone just kind of volunteers each year for what job they'll do. And at the end, Dorothy has initiated this little part, well, we do have parties during the year as well. And she has made these beautiful little certificates for the different people who have done outstanding work in one way or the other. And we have a little ceremony, and she says what this person did that was very helpful. They brought a lot of the excess produce over to the food kitchen or whatever. So it's been a really cooperative, fun kind of an atmosphere. So people do step up.
And I would add that Dorothy Strigalis has just done an outstanding job. You know, she's a retired teacher in town, but she's been heading up as the chairperson or what have you of the garden, and she manages a lot, and I think that's why we all love it so much. She just is wonderful working with people, and she's there all the time and knows all the little jobs that needs to be done and does get everyone to step up and help out. So it's a wonderful community resource that I think you can hear, that we're both very attached to it, and we're very happy to have our little piece of real estate within the garden. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Elaine. I think you've given everyone a good feeling for what it's like over there. Last year, for the first time, we had someone come in and take their plot and cover it with 6 inches of pebbles, and then put 6 metal tubs, raised beds on. And that kind of raised a lot of red flags, and we felt it was important to revisit the regulations as far as how the gardens run, because clearly if this person drops dead or leaves town or something, the next person that comes in may not want those stones, and they go down 6 inches. As my understanding, this person had an outside contractor come in to put the tubs in and lay all those stones for a cost of about $8,000. So the next person who's going to try to remediate what's there is going to have a major problem. So that's one of the issues in terms of this person also, I might add, has kind of surpassed the height of the raised beds that exist over there. 58 out of the 60 plots have raised beds that are no higher than 18 inches. This one person goes up to 28 inches. One other person is 26. But there has to be some sort of control. The next thing you know, people will be putting up concrete structures.
Right. And that's where I was going with the regulations, who's regulating things, because you have a wait list. If you have folks who are not going to live up to the rules that you have already in place, then somebody has to tell them, excuse me, you're going to need to move on, because you can bring somebody else in that would properly run their garden the way it's supposed to be.
Correct. Yeah. And the other issue is, Tricia mentioned we have a wait list. How many are currently on the list, Julia?
Well, it depends. There's about 20 at least.
I think it might even be 25 or 30.
Yeah, 25 or 30, depending on if they still want it, because some applied 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Don't know if they're still in town or whatever.
We have at least 3, possibly 4 people there now who do not live in Darien but still have a garden. And that seems to be unfair, as long as you've got a wait list. And-
Well, my understanding is you do need to have residents.
You have to be a resident.
So
I
I
don't
don't
know, you do, there are people there who do not live in Darien, who do have gardens.
Well, that is something we can follow up with Dorothy. If that were true, I think that they would not be meeting the requirement. Yeah.
We did, I'm quite sure, I didn't bring a copy with them this evening, I trotted them in every month for the last 4 or 5, but a copy of our rules to us, but I do believe the language we put in our rules specifically stated, oh, there you go, Susan.
Yeah, I think you did.
I believe language said you need to be a Darien resident.
Right.
It wasn't in the rules before, it didn't say that anywhere really.
No,
so-
it was not,
Did not?
no, it was never there, no.
But
So I think you all received a revised copy of rules and guidelines and so on. And I think that's the one thing that we need to add, is
Well, I
that,
think we have it in our park rules though.
yes, but
Susan
here,
is looking.
it's like, you must be a Darien resident.
yes, definitely.
So the other thing I would add to your rules is what do you do when someone is violating? So taking it to the next step, like put something in there saying you can tell them they have to leave.
That has been
You
done.
can
We
go
do.
to the way.
Oh, yeah, that's been
It
done.
says
Yeah,
that
but
on
I
the second
think-
page.
Oh, it's not on the second.
Okay, it
It's on the
says,
train. So
lots will be inspected by a member of the Parks and Recreation Cherry Lawn Gardens Committee in June, July, August, and September. Paths should be clear and weeds must not constitute more than 25% of the garden. 2 warnings regarding your garden or garden paths will be reported to the Parks and Recreation Department and can lead to the forfeit of your garden for next year.
I would say lead to the forfeit. I wouldn't put an if or could.
I don't,
I would
it says can.
yeah, I would say that
Did you
could
get,
lead.
did you guys get this? It was emailed out?
Yes.
Yeah, I might have, I was reading on the train.
Okay,
so
no, it says
could
and
burn my
can
lights
lead
or
to the
something.
Yeah.
forfeit of your garden for next year.
Yeah, I would just put it, be more definitive that
Will lead.
will lead.
There you go.
And it leaves left of an appeal.
Yeah. And then our rules, we did add an appeal process in our
Yeah,
overall rules.
the overall rules waiver to shield process.
Well, here it is, membership, it's under, on page, it says, it's under H, Cherry Lawn Community Gardens. Membership in the gardens is limited to Darien residents and entitles the member to use of garden plot within the designated garden area. Members must reapply for use of their assigned plot annually. The plot will be forfeited if no application is made and/or if the annual fee is not paid. Forfeited plots will be assigned to individuals on the waiting list. A waiting list will be maintained by the director of Parks and Rec, and a plot which becomes available will be offered to the next household on the waiting list, established by chronological order of application date. Assignment of plots is limited to 1 per household so long as there is a waiting list. Each member must conform to the Cherry Lawn Garden Plots rules and guidelines as approved by the commission. Violation of these rules and guidelines may result in the forfeiture of the plots as determined by the director. Any such decision may be appealed to the commission in writing. The commission will render a decision at its next regular meeting, provided at least 1 calendar week has elapsed from the time the appeal has been received. So,
That sounds fair.
So in the rules we put May. You voted on them. I know, I always hated the May word in policy.
Well, the only, if I may, the only reason why it might be may instead of will is because there may be an extenuating circumstance.
No, and I get that. It just sounds like it has been somewhat hard to get people to comply. Putting all those stones at a community garden.
See, but there was really nothing
There was
in
nothing
writing
to say she couldn't
to say
at the
she
time.
couldn't. It really brought to the fore, it helped bring to the, I mean, I think this person, she was just, you know, as I understand it, it might have been, it's physically easier to stand. Maybe there was a back issue, I don't know. Just somebody wanted to work standing up. You know, it's really cool. I've seen it. It's got the, you know, like, this would be nice to work on factor. There was really nothing to
Which could
say.
create a lot of community gardens somewhere else in our park.
Right, this wasn't okay. I think generally, you know, Pam and Jim would tell you that people can't bring outside contractors onto town property and do work, but it just doesn't happen, so we're like, we better make that explicit. But it just sort of happened. But it brought to light a few things. One was, I know it's the heat. That we were in the process of updating our rules anyway, and we were like, we don't talk about the gardens anywhere. So it really kind of brought the fact that we needed to improve this connectivity, so we're saying, these ladies and gentlemen have been running the gardens for us beautifully for years, so we don't want to muck that up, but we realize we need to have that link, and sometimes the department can be the heavy,
Yeah.
you know,
Much
so you
easier.
guys don't really have to be, then
It's a lot
because
easier for us to.
it's easier for the department, I keep looking at you, the department, and us to say, you know, this doesn't work. So that's what we were trying to pull together in a better way.
Yeah, so to the positive side, I have a couple neighbors whose kids have gone, series of kids have used the community gardens, and everyone loves them. And it's a wonderful,
It's a wonderful place.
experience for kids and families.
It's a little piece of heaven right here.
Yeah, it's just, it's so great, and you know, my husband and I are big garden, we have our own in our yard, but I love, you know, Mary Louise's walking through, I love walking through it, just talking to these guys about gardening, and it's
May I say
really,
two things?
yes.
One of them is on the topic of the contractors coming in. I'm thinking, well, what if, to get around that, what if the person who wanted to build these beds instead had 3 husky young sons or daughters who came in and did the work for her? They're not contractors, but they did the work. So instead, could we say something about anything that's a permanent structure? So that they don't, even if they're putting it in themselves, they can't put in something that can't be easily removed.
Well, we did put in
I thought it
here,
said that
it
somewhere.
does, it says no gravel, pebbles, or permanent
Yeah.
structures may be.
That should do the job.
Yeah.
Whether or not they have a contractor come in to do the work.
Right.
Because that could be a little bit of a loophole.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, on the guidelines, can we put in a note that says that the guidelines, not the overall plan, but the guidelines can be amended as needed by whoever, the committee or the commission, either one,
We have that in our-
in case another thing arises next year.
Right, so is the existing, the problem that you described, Mary Louise, is that grandfathered in then as of
Well,
now?
that's
Good
That's
question.
Like, or,
sitting here tonight.
like, we need
What
to
do you
make,
want to do about that?
like, yeah, would that be a grandfathered in, you know, since the rule wasn't in place? But at the same time, it is town property, and you're now asking people to apply annually, and this person is obviously not abiding by the rules that are gonna be set forth in an application that's done annually. So, I'm just gonna put it out, you know what I mean, like from a legal perspective, like what would you say?
Typically, you would say the regulation or rule goes forward, that it's not retroactive.
Yeah, but she's asked, now our new rules say that gardeners have to apply every year, and when you apply, you will have to follow the set of rules set up by the department. So, I mean, I'm ambivalent, you know what I mean, like, I'm just saying.
I would make a request to ask her to remove, you know, any permanent structure and see if that would work first.
But the rules say that it can go above 18 inches now, and she's got a 28-inch
But it
bed.
wasn't in place when she put it in.
Yeah, the other question is, we
No,
have to.
It
talked
wasn't in
about
place
this.
when she put that in place, so that's why we put the rules in place, is that
I
she.
would say that we've talked among ourselves, the officers of Cherry Lawn Garden, and we're okay with her keeping it.
Yeah.
And just because the rules were not in place, and because we do tend to be a community that all tries to kind of work together, and so, and we felt she wasn't really necessarily harming any
Yeah,
other
so-
plot holder. It would just be that we would make it clear that when she were to give up the plot, she would need to remove the tubs and the gravel.
Unless somebody else wants it. I could see
Well,
somebody
that-
else
I
wanting
can agree
that.
with that.
Good
I
point.
love that.
And
You're
so
right.
if there was a safety issue, right,
Yeah.
if there was a
Right.
health issue,
Right.
if there's something that we would require us to make it retroactive, we can.
Right.
But if it's,
She's not hurting anyone.
Pam and I did ask Sandy to go and take a look at it and see if he saw any issues with it, and he reported that he did not.
yeah, it'd be very hard to then have really the authority to go backwards and retroactively apply the rules to
Right.
her.
She might feel blindsided.
I think we
Yeah,
need to
and it
notify
just-
her,
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of separately.
I would notify her that there are new rules and
We're
maybe she'd
aware.
want to comply.
If you can, or definitely when you leave. Take it home with you, unless the person wants it again.
Unless somebody wants it,
So-
yeah. Before she just dismantled it, I would like to see you guys offer it to somebody, because again, I can see someone with physical limitations,
I agree.
providing them with a pathway to garden because of the height, so
That's true.
I
It could be
wouldn't want
reserved
to
for a
be.
senior, for
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly, I wouldn't want to be quick to dismantle it until we knew that, because it does offer opportunities to someone else who might, you know, not otherwise be able to garden,
We do have a diverse population.
and we do.
So it would be possible.
Where did you guys settle on the 18 inches?
or did you wanna go 20, where?
Well,
It's arbitrary.
as I said, out of these 60 plots, 58 that have raised beds are lower, are 18 or lower. There are only 2 gardens that go over 18 inches. One of them is hers, and then there's another garden that has wooden raised beds that's, I think it's 26 inches.
I guess the disadvantage of having people with different level that, like it's basically a taller pot, and when you have something growing that's taller than anybody else's, it blocks the sunlight from the other plots. Like, you know, like that's something to consider. That's part of the reason why having it be equitable, at least somebody that has something that's 10 inches taller then puts another similar plant up, their tomato plant's gonna cast this bigger shadow on any adjoining plots that where the sun goes. I'm just putting it out there, I'm not.
Right. It's in
you
the
know.
guidelines that
Yeah.
they should not shave their neighbors.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do
that's
have
lot.
that.
But it's gonna happen more likely with
Yeah.
someone with a bigger, taller bed than someone that has a consistently, everybody's consistent.
Right.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I
So you
think
have,
18 inches works for us.
We're staying 18?
Mhm.
Well,
Again,
this one I'll
these-
leave up to you guys.
Make these revisable
Yeah.
as needed,
Okay.
the guidelines. Because each year, something new may come up and we may need to just address it. Do we have to have a whole big meeting about it, or can the committee decide, or the commissioner?
Any other specifics on the rules? I think
looks great.
they've covered.
The only major change was instead of having 2 checks, the
Oh,
20
yes.
inches now,
Just the one
it's now
check
1 check coming to
the town.
Park and Rec for $30,
Right.
which covers all of the water, electricity, and so on.
And then any supplies that you need, either you'll get them and submit for reimbursement or ask, you know, the office to arrange to get them, Sandy and his crew or whatever.
So just a little housekeeping, as the treasurer, we want to close the account that's at First County Bank.
Right.
How should the check be written? I assume when I close the account, they'll write a bank check?
Town of Town of Darien. Regressing.
And not a particular department?
No, Town of Darien.
Okay. To anyone's attention?
You can put it to Jim
Probably
Crowley,
it'd be good to maybe come in and give it to Jim or Tamara.
Jim or
Yeah.
Tamara.
That's fine.
What's the last name?
Coglan,
Jim.
C-O-G-H-L-A-N.
C-O-G-H, oh, Coughlin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Traveling.
C-O-L-G, I'm sorry, C?
C-O-G-H-L-A-N.
That makes sense. Great, thank you. I will do that and mail it to you.
That's
All
perfect.
right, so I can do that tomorrow. There's about $756.35 in the account.
Nice.
Not a big budget, don't get excited.
Great job.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that's it, Brenda.
Thank you.
for
Thank you,
coming in.
Elaine.
I wonder, should we even have a treasurer? Because now the
I'm not
treasurer's-
sure you need a treasurer, I can just be,
Possibly.
yeah, committee
Someone could
members,
retire.
yeah.
I-
And,
Hey,
you know,
again.
we talked about, you know, we did put, those are that you come in at least once a year to give us a report, but then, in the meanwhile, as you're meeting from time to time, you know, you would, you know, set an agenda and, you know, Mary Louise knows what to
Of
do.
course.
Mary Louise knows what to do.
She does.
And I could just be a member at large. I help with the inspections, that type of
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
Great. I think we're all set.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and
for
thank you
being
for
here.
Cherry Glen Gardens. We just love it.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we are still on Cherry Lawn. Cherry
Yeah,
Lawn's
sorry.
getting a lot of love tonight.
We're really tired of Cherry Lawn by now. Pam, you have my presentation?
Yeah. So I'm gonna share my screen.
Everybody's familiar with, you know, the playground and the walkways around the area. I actually I have a bunch of pictures just in case people haven't seen it in a while, what it looks like currently. But while Pam's looking for that, I did speak to our playground vendor. He says the equipment's gonna arrive end of February, and he's gonna put it in storage until he's ready to deploy that, so that until he has his staff ready to go, he's gonna hold on to it in a safe place and lock it up. So that was good to it. Okay. Here we go. I know we're kind of tired of the blue and green. I feel like all I do is presentations about this playground. Can you go to the next slide, Pam? Can everybody see it? Okay, so right now, this is the drawing that John Hollerback actually put together for us.
So
Sorry.
it's near you.
Oh, okay. So, can I stand up and just point to things? It might be easier. So this is where the existing walkway ends. It kind of dies, and then it goes to gravel for some reason. It doesn't quite reach the playground at all. So the idea was to extend this hole to meet this area right here. And the reason I have this yellow here is this is where one existing tree is, and we're not gonna obviously dig roots or try to do anything to this tree. So what we're gonna do is figure out where the tree roots are and set back a few feet so that it's never touching the root system of any of the trees that are surrounding. So it would probably be 2 or 3 feet at a minimum to allow for growth. Because we also, if tree roots are growing into it, this is gonna be a concrete patio with brick. It's gonna get destroyed. So that would alleviate that problem. So what you see here is the 2 to 5 playground. I'll show you on more drawings later, but this is like an overview. This is where the gate is, right? So the gate, this playground will now be accessible to this playground. So it's between 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. This is all about 4 feet wide to 5 feet. This one right here, right here. So here, we were trying to figure out ways that, because right now we have a lot of people that congregate under this Norway spruce. You know what I'm talking about, Mary Louise, right? That's right there. And we were trying to figure out how do we get people away from the root system again. So we decided that maybe another idea would be to extend this walkway this way a little bit, make this wider so that we could shift some of the tables that are kind of hanging around under the tree roots this way, get them away from the tree again. And it's a nice solid surface, and the tables would rest properly on and not be setting on top of roots on this tree and damage them. So right here also, this is the front of 5 to 12. So it's one kind of straight line that meets pour and play. So this is all pour and play that's going to be on the playground. This right here will connect to that driveway, you know, kind of where the comfort station is, for lack of a better way. So that if you were kind of coming around, right now, if you want to go to the restroom, I'm not sure you could go, there's a good path now, because you're going to touch grass or dirt or something. So right now, this whole pathway would lead you can kind of loop it, the whole playgrounds and the whole driveway area. So let me go to the next slide and kind of give you guys more of a picture, sorry. So right now, this might be better. So this is one tree here and another tree here. So this is kind of, sorry about this. This was after it snowed and I couldn't get a good picture after that and nothing melted. So this is the driveway I just mentioned towards the comfort station. So it would kind of, see, you can see this is the edging of the playground. So the pathway / area would kind of run parallel to this and at some point shoot a walkway to connect to this driveway. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we gotta try not to touch it.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's a touch screen.
It's a bit. Go to the next slide. Let me show you what it looks like now. So this is what is there currently. This was done by the original Park Pals group. So the idea is to kind of emulate, like match it, so that it doesn't look like it's kind of like Frankenstein, that it's going to be consistent to what was already, I mean, it's not going to be as dirty, obviously. I'm hoping that our vendor can kind of clean these up and power wash at least the edges. But it'll be the same consistent pathway going to at least the 5 to 12.
Next slide.
Yeah, go to the next slide, I'm sorry. So this is what I was telling you about, you know how the pathway just kind of sits there? And it used to wash away all the time, so I think Sandy and Co. put a bunch of pressure-treated lumber there so that it would stay instead of getting washed away. So this is the pathway I'm saying that would be extended back to the 5 to 12. And this is a close-up of it, if you want to see it right here. So not ADA accessible, nothing. So very raw, like it gets washed out.
It will be ADA accessible when the pathway's put in.
Yes, the new pathway would connect everything. But you see the root system a little bit here that I was mentioning in this picture. It's a good one. Go to the next one. Okay, so this is what I was talking. So this right here is where the playground, the pour and play will come to here, and then the narrow walkway would come through the middle and go to the 5 to 12. See, there's going to be pour and play, walkway connects to this whole area too.
So it makes it nice and accessible.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Will we be able to fix that gate?
That was actually discussed a lot at our, the gates are kind of like the worst thing. A lot of it is that
It shifts, the
shifts, but-
shape changes.
it does,
in
and it
weather.
also, this is actually a really expensive fence, like, because we did one for Playground by the Sound, it was cheaper, and it was still, the gates get so much use, it's a lot of also, people don't close them, because it's too hard, it's not automatic,
Yeah.
and,
And the automatic ones break even more.
yeah, they even,
Like the
they're even worse.
self-closing ones, which would be very helpful in theory for the
Little one.
2 to 5.
Yeah, I find that people, you have to just play with it and push it in, but it is a spot that we're probably gonna have to talk to staff and see if they could just continuously adjust it if we need to, but it does shift. We've never figured out, but the fence itself is intact, like really strong, and
It's just a gate.
it's the
Yeah,
gate.
the
You
other
can't
gate
close
doesn't lock
it
either.
easily.
The other one,
The
yeah,
one when you entrance, that you can't
Yeah.
lock that either.
Used to.
I mean, like honestly, even at Playground by the Sound, which I did too, it's never quite, it's like you gotta force it. And it's the amount of wear and tear they get, I've never seen a park which has had a successful closing one. Let's go to
Maybe
this,
Sandy can
do some research. Yeah, maybe we could figure it out.
Yeah.
Or maybe figure out if there's new technology with like gates. Like, the rest of it can stay, it's just that maybe the gate, the hinges or something's going on with it. Next slide. This one, okay, so sorry, these are not great, but this is the root system on the tree on the left, root system on the tree on the right. You see this one comes out farther. This is the Norway spruce. So you see, people like it because it's under shade, and so people put their chairs there. But we're figuring if we can get a little bit of a wider patio before the root system, maybe we could move some of these tables. I'm actually hoping that we can purchase some new tables that match with what the money we raised from the Brick campaign. So maybe we can enhance it, maybe make them sit here versus, like, it just seems like people, like, it's just, look, there's even a trash can here, and that probably doesn't belong next to the plant.
Would we consider securing the tables so
Maybe.
people can't move them and drag them back under
Yeah,
the tree?
we could look into that for sure. We're not sure how, because we're depending our design on what nature tells us, which is basically where the tree roots are. I can't figure out what picnic table could fit there just yet, until John actually said to me that he wants to make sure that we do this at the end. Like, draw it, map it out, like stake it out, and have everybody in agreement before we do the final pathways and everything. The other thing, I did do some research on it, because I actually looked at putting a deck around it and all this stuff, and John was like, it's gonna be a tripping hazard, it's too much, like, it's another issue, and you just don't know if you're protecting the tree roots enough. What I did find was that the best way to protect tree roots is to kind of just cover them with wood chips away from the base, none colors, because you don't want to rot the base, but you can put chips around here so that the pressure, people won't be walking right on the tree roots.
And people will follow the path, so they won't be going over the tree roots.
One can only hope, but it is quite an attractive tree, so, but if we put the tables here and make it that,
If the tables aren't under the tree, people aren't gonna go over there.
Well, kids will probably.
They may run.
it might be if we
Kids
put
love
chips there.
trees.
I think they go under for the shade.
They
I've
do.
seen the birthday parties and they pulled all the tables underneath them, and it's on a hot day, they're trying to get the
They're usually
shade.
on that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know, it's like, again, a perennial problem here, so.
I mean, that's
it's
the trick, we plant trees to provide shade for people, but then we say, but if you sit under the tree and use the shade, then you're damaging the tree, I mean, it's
Right,
like-
six half does another. The other thing we could do is plant another nice tree right around there that will eventually, like, provide more shade in that space too. Like, it's just another thought, The Norway spruce is honestly not the best tree for that type of thing, it just happens to be there. But it's there, so we're not touching it, so. Next slide, I think I have a couple more. So anyway, this is the line I was telling you about, that it would hug that
The pathway would
the
hug
walkway,
that.
yeah. So just so people see what it looks like now, when it's not full with snow. Next slide. Okay, so this is the driveway again. So you see how, like, right there, if you have mobility issues, you can come from any other park, like maybe you need to go to the restroom, or you need to go to the garden real quick. It's an easier connection now back here, because there's going to be a walkway that comes back here to go to connect to the playground. Especially with we see a lot of grandparents and people of different ages using our playgrounds too, and accompanying young children. I think that would be a bonus. So, let me see if I have one more maybe. So, the same, like I said, it's gonna be the same pattern so that it looks like it's been in place for a lot longer. There are probably gonna be blanks because we're not, which means bricks without names on them, because we're not selling, I mean, as of now, we're gonna sell a certain amount, and I feel like we're raising a lot of money already. And so what we're gonna do is just have like maybe one be with names alternated. John suggested like having one set of bricks have the names and the next one be blank, and, you know, make it more. But you won't notice the difference until you go down and say, wow, there are names on these and not on those. So it's not gonna be noticeable. But I did a kind of quick calculation. I did I asked a couple of people. I did Playground by the Sound, so I had certain prices in my head that we had used. Like our 8x8 brick was, I think, $250. That was 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. And so we're gonna do it with 400 because it has logos. Like this will have like a bunch of like maybe 50 options. You could do like a heart or a tree or something, and you could write your name. So that's a pretty good price for that, for the 8x8. We're also gonna do 4x8s, which is what your traditional brick, and that's just gonna be all just words and copy. And we have that at $250. So the person thought that having this be less than half price would kind of be an inducement to go to the 400. But I did projected revenues of $120,000 that we would make after the cost of having the vendor make the bricks, and we're gonna do credit card processing. So this $120,000 would cover the actual building of the Pathway by John's company, Creative Recreation. And anything that we do have left over, we could purchase additional equipment, like picnic tables, benches, whatever, and even leave the money in an account for future use. Like let's say we decide we want part of the playground shaded, that's gonna be, hopefully that we have a chunk of money that we can say we wanna do that, because we found
Shade structure.
a shade structure.
Does the 120, projected 120 cover the cost that we have to pay the vendor for the bricks?
Yes, so we paid the vendor for the bricks, we just haven't paid John yet, and I don't know, John's number is now $30,000 for what he proposed. Right. So until we know what we're doing, let's say it's 40, that still would leave us with about, yes, that's a chunk of money. Like if we didn't use it all in one spot. But when we did Playground by the Sound, we had like 60,000 left, and we gave it to the town, and they kept it in an account for many years and replaced things and did other things with the monies, because we're shutting down our nonprofit, you know, so we can't hold this money anymore.
So this is wonderful, but my only thought is, can we give some of the bricks away for free? Like, can we have some type of raffle so some people who couldn't afford this could maybe benefit from it too?
The only question then becomes, how do you give, like, if it is about people that have, financial burden, like situation, how would we know that they would, qualify? Yeah. Like, would everybody be in the lottery?
I think you could easily do it in a way.
Okay, we could look into that, and
yeah.
that's not a big deal. Like, if that, I can ask my.
See if we could go about, so there isn't a cost to
We
some
have a
people.
scholarship program too.
Yeah.
And we work with the
Maybe we can
Human
say,
Services.
like,
yeah, I don't know the magic way of doing it, but I'd like to think about.
But that would cover what Pam just talked about, would cover that, knowing if someone was really in that situation. So maybe we set aside a certain amount, maybe 5, 10, whatever you think.
That would be great.
It's a small percentage.
Yeah.
Did we sell on Playground on the Sound,
By
when you
Sound.
did the brick,
Yeah.
did we completely sell out everything? Or the whole
We
inventory was gone?
we kind of ran out of time. Like, we had to stop at a certain point because we actually had to build a playground, so we stopped sales. We ended up selling almost 700 bricks for that, to be fair.
700, okay.
And it was different at Playground by the Sound. I don't know if you've been there recently, but the big bricks are butted onto each other. Whereas this, you see the pattern, we have the giant, the concrete in the middle. It just...
So I guess the only, what I was wondering is, what will the volume of bricks be in the end? So
I gave you the number, so it's 150 plus, we've got 300. So it's like about 450.
450 bricks will be
Yeah,
sold.
and I have to be honest with you, the reason I kept it that, it's just that then we don't have to go deal with, like, it goes below the 10,000 that we have to pay this vendor, and then we don't have to go to bid again, because otherwise we have to go through the bidding process. And I really like this company. They used it at the VFW when they did their bricks recently there. They're very, I mean, for us, we don't have a lot of staff in-house. When we did it in Playground by the Sound, each person had to write in a form with boxes, and I had to tell you, a huge error rate on that, because someone then had to transcribe that and type that into a computer. And we had actually about at least a ton of errors, like 5 to 10%. The way this works is that the vendor creates a website for you, and so then we provide that link to
Design your brick.
and you design your brick, you go, you put, everything's on you, you proof it, you say, yes, this is what I mean to do, and it gets sent off, and it's done. And so the only piece that we have to do that's gonna be more challenging is, I don't want inappropriate things written on bricks. I mean, not that I don't trust people, but you gotta be careful. So I'm gonna definitely make sure there's language that says that we reserve the right to, you know, remove or, you know, make a determination if it's appropriate for the card. And that's possible because the design, the copy of what people decide will be sent to us before it gets uploaded to the computer for the vendor. They won't produce anything until we've approved it.
Great.
And the nice thing is, we're gonna use the town's payment system, like, because they have a payment system, so whatever that is, so that's, I'm not gonna do if you do it, I mean, everything's gonna be done online, so I'm not gonna put a 0.2 point, so I've already taken out that profit out of the cost of the brick, because it's just too messy otherwise. So everything has to be done online, so the office staff wouldn't have to sit there and like take forms or take money or anything. And they, communicating with the company, it's called That's My Brick, by the way, it's kind of cool. We'd need to complete the campaign by mid-March, just to give us some wiggle room. They say it takes about a month to get produced and sent to the on-site, but it seems like a really, I gotta tell you, this took several people when we did play. I mean, I had a committee of 20 people on the Playground by the Sound. This is gonna be a committee of 1 or 2 people working on this and staff, so.
Next slide.
It'll be good. I think that's it, actually. I think the next one's Blake. Yep. So anyway, any questions or anything?
How are we going to advertise the campaign?
We're gonna probably do blast through Parks and Rec, you know, our list. We have one of our committee members is involved in the social media group for Darien town residents, and she's promised to post it on her group. And also
Our Parks and Rec social media
is really pretty good. It's significant. And honestly, like, there's not that
Sorry,
many.
are you talking about the Parks and Rec social, Instagram account?
No, it's for Moms of Darien.
Oh, the Facebook.
Yeah, the Facebook. I mean, we're gonna go through everything we can, but I feel like Pam's blasts are really effective.
For sure, yeah.
And I'm hoping that John will also send us, he had talked about Pam and I doing a like fly-through for the new playground. So maybe you can kind of jazz it up, have something on the website that would be, we're doing bricks, you know, we're selling bricks for this new playground, and we gotta, in order to make it like the best it can be, we're gonna do all these great pathways, new walkways, and we need your help, you know, and make sure they know it's clear that.
Who manages the Parks and Rec account? Instagram.
Cassie.
Cassie
does. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, no, I was happy to see in the notes that we're planning on Memorial Day is the date for.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Grand opening or whatever of the new playground.
Yeah, that's what I explained to
weather
him.
permitting, right, so.
Yeah, he said May, that's why he thinks that May 1st is when they'll start doing the finish work. Like, if they're starting in March, they're hoping to get the playgrounds installed, and by May 1st, it's gonna be time to do all the patios and the finish work, kind of what, they're gonna come backwards on it, so, you know, that's the plan. He says he has a couple of big jobs, but he has this for, I said Memorial Day is our request, but he said the weather's been so wonky, but you could see that it's gonna go warm in a week again, so I think that we shouldn't have too many problems with getting it done.
Good. Are you gonna say something, Jim?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Has anybody asked, I guess our finance department, is this something that we normally would do?
Yeah, we've gotten it approved through Kingston.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a memo on it already, yeah.
Okay, good, okay.
Yeah. I think the issue was having an account. Pam's already worked on getting an account dedicated to just this purpose.
Well, that would be through our software.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you have it all.
The donations doesn't trigger anything for going before RTM or anything like that?
So, because they're individual donations, or they're under, the largest one is $400. When you do your benches, you don't, it's one person giving
So
each
like, we
thing.
consider it individual.
Right, it's not
donations.
considered a $120,000 donation.
Because
It's
I,
considered.
when we did Playground by the Sound, we had to go through everything, like we had to do
Yeah.
all the different town boards and bodies, because it was, but we were a nonprofit, we
Yeah.
created a 501c3 to process all the donations, and then we gave it to the town.
Gave one big gift to the
Right.
town.
It was only one
Then
charity.
you have to
Right,
go
right.
through those.
Right.
But this is gonna be like individual payments, almost like if someone was buying the, like doing the memorial benches or whatever you guys have. It's
Okay.
the same idea, it's like a one-time gift.
Okay,
I'm not expecting anything at $10,000, as far as I know, just from one person.
okay.
Is everybody
Can I make a
comfortable?
motion?
You can make a motion.
All right, that we approve the, the brick fundraiser for Cherry Lawn Playground.
Second? Kathy? All in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
Good job.
I know Amy was keen on knowing about this, so we may have to circle.
I'm happy to talk to her about it, and
Okay.
you know,
I'll walk it with her.
I was pretty good about the tree roots, and that's part of the reason I spent so much time and ended up taking pictures in there.
But she may want to walk it with you.
I'll ask, I'm happy to do that
That
with
would be
her.
great. Okay, we need to next approve the 2024 fee schedule. We did, handed them out. We did talk about these last month. The department's recommendation really was no changes this year, no
Thank you.
increases. As it was mentioned during the garden discussion, the change, it shows 20 to 30. That's because, we've concluded.
Absorbing the other 10.
We're absorbing the other 10. We really concluded that having, we're essentially town funds in an outside bank account that the finance department wasn't aware of, wasn't good governance. So they've agreed that we'll do that and then, assist, as we said. They use that for incidentals and then we'll just work with them on the incidentals. So that'll come. So really, that's the only proposed change.
Can I ask the question again about Great Island, whether it's gonna be on a beach permit, or we don't know that?
It has not yet been decided.
Okay, sorry.
Good question, though.
It's a good question. I've asked the same question. Do not yet know.
Just would love to go.
Yep. Any other questions?
So as I've said, in previous meetings, the only issue I have with the fees is that I feel the daily entrance fee is low. I just think given the volume that we are experiencing at the beaches now with residents, the last, how many parking, we're still limited with the amount of parking at Wheat Beach and Pear Tree. Wheat Beach is, in the summer, pretty much every spot's taken. And now that we're adding so many more residents with the developments that's going on, especially in the Run Heights, 100+ apartments, 100+ families coming in, I don't know, I think we're gonna max out. I think residents of Darien should be given top priority versus non-residents who wanna come and use the beach for the day. So, I don't wanna make it sound like I wanna make it a deterrent for people to come because you're gonna make it too expensive. But I don't see a problem with raising the fee to something like $75 instead of $50. But that's, I don't know, that's my own 2 cents.
There have been lawsuits.
That's why we keep them
Against neighboring towns, many, which have been very expensive for some of our neighboring towns, when they have raised the fee too high. So I think Darien has purposely kept it low in response to those lawsuits.
Yeah.
They've been raised on a variety of different legal theories, but most of it is discrimination.
No, I understand, but we're not saying everybody's not welcome, but what happens if we get to a point where we're turning Darien residents away who paid their $50 for the sticker and they can't get in because the parking lot's full?
I'd say, are we getting to that point is the question, is when we get to that point, when we have a better argument to raise the fee, and we can say, look, we're protecting our town, but without that data.
We have had the only time that we turned people away was during the Stanford fireworks, where we had a band on the beach and it was just a madhouse. It was really, really busy. On our daily days of summer, there's never any complaint that people can't get in.
Yeah, I don't think Monday to Friday is an issue, but weekends, my experience has been the weekends, the parking lots.
It's definitely getting full. I agree. It's definitely getting
But I've
much
always gotten
fuller.
in.
I haven't had any complaints that people couldn't get in.
Okay.
I
Except
think once
that
we
time.
get there though, I understand your point.
Mm.
I think we're just not there yet, and then we'd have a more valid response to change the fee versus a very expensive lawsuit.
I do want to be cautious about it. There's been proposed legislation in Hartford.
Yes.
Janet's worked on, crafting testimony for the commission a few years.
Okay.
Tackling this issue because it can be considered discriminatory. Wayne Fox has counseled in the past that, you're going to set a much higher fee. You really need to demonstrate that it's really covering sort of the extra cost or the costs to run the property. So I hear you and I understand it, but it's a fine line because they are public parks, and then certainly with access to the shoreline.
You were proposing for the resident fee to be increased, is
No,
it?
the daily entrance
The
fee.
daily entrance.
The
$50.
But that's
That's $50.
non-resident, oh, that's, okay,
So it's the same as a non-resident pays for the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, but that's
that's a
season.
daily, but that's a
But it's
Yeah.
for one day.
But then we charge, now, the sitter nanny vehicle, is that for the season, $80?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
for
the
the
season.
season also. I think when we first got that number, Jim, was because we looked around and looked at what the other towns around us were doing, and that's why we are at 50. Because we didn't want to be this, we didn't want to be down here.
I think we're pretty
So
much in the
it
middle.
was a discussion, I know, at some point where we looked around, like, what was Westport doing, what's Norwalk, we looked at all of it, so that
Mhm.
we're not gonna be like an outlier. We're just keeping.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at towns that are equal to size or similar to size as Darien, like a Wilton or something,
Well, they
you
don't have
can't,
a beach.
not on the beach, yeah. But I don't think Stamford, Stamford has a lot of land down at their beach, so I don't think that would be
And they have a lot
fair.
more, they have a lot of
Greenwich.
residents too.
Their beaches.
We just wanted to be somewhat
Yeah.
consistent
I think the
because we
Stanford
didn't,
fee
yeah.
was like 60.
Yeah, it's around the same.
Yeah.
We weren't that much different. We purposely did that though.
Okay, I'm just
But I hear what you're
voicing,
saying. I hear what you're saying
I think we're gonna
too.
get to the point where there's not gonna be enough spots, that's
Yeah,
my.
and we need
my
to watch
feeling.
that carefully, and as you know, we've had inquiries from, providing the seasonal passes to town employees in the past. We had one inquiry just in the past few weeks, and, our concern has been because that is over 600 individuals with the capacity challenges we have.
that includes the teachers too.
And that includes the teachers and everything, that right now, when we really don't know what it's gonna look like until the rest of these apartments come online, that we wanted to be a bit
Right,
cautious, but, so if town employees need to purchase day passes to come down, we don't wanna make it so expensive for them, for
but we
instance.
also have the right to say Monday to Friday versus weekends, right? Or is that a legal thing where they'll say, oh, you're locking people out on the weekends?
Monday to
If the
Friday
volume
for
is, if
what?
the volume of Darien residents is a lot higher on the weekends, but we have spaces Monday to Friday, can we regulate and say non-residents can come in on
Well,
these
there's
days?
real
Or
legal
is that something
I
challenges.
that's
think it was
illegal?
challenged for those purposes too, was on the weekend, if I remember correctly, I have to go back.
Okay.
Well,
Sounds
since I looked
familiar.
at it, but I think it was that, but I think to Susan's point, we kind of picked this middle number to make sure that we're kind of charging what everyone else did, but I get what you're saying, we're getting a lot of.
We've had to defend against even this number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
But I don't believe I believe legally access can't be denied to non-residents at all, so I don't believe you can say you can't come on weekends. We did some limitation during COVID, but at the time, Jamie Stevenson, as our first selectman, had executive
Emergency. kind of.
powers
Through the
to do
state.
that, but under normal circumstances wouldn't have been able to do that. So that I don't believe we can do.
Yeah, you can charge a higher fee, and the weekends would probably raise the same issues.
Okay. But we do track the volume anyway, so we'll be able to
Yeah.
look at the end of the season, how much accrued year over year from last year and the year previous, to be able to say, these are the way the numbers are growing, and what our capacity is. So, okay.
But we
think-
do
I
have to
agree
watch
with
it.
you. Yeah, and I think the only complaint there was last summer was so many people wanted to see the fireworks. Which is a nice problem to have.
And we also added the band, and that was, so,
Yeah.
we know better.
But it is absolutely fuller than it used to be, because I'm down there so much. And it definitely is getting tighter. Tighter and tighter to park down there. And I think, now that the apartments in the Heights are fully occupied, that's gonna add to it more, you know, Dave Genovese has more of the apartments coming online, so we are going to continue to see the pressure in all of the parks. Parking is something we're gonna have to be concerned about.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Like this one's a tricky one.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'd have to think through a lot, you know, not just non-residents, what about the nanny permit? We'd have to go through all of them and determine what we should do.
Based on that,
Approve this?
do we want to have a motion to approve the schedule as proposed, or the fee schedule?
I'm sorry, can I ask one question?
Yes.
The community garden fees, I thought it was $30.
It is 30.
This was-
You must have got an old one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I updated it.
Okay. Mine's a little
Mary Louise?
Yeah.
Okay. Second?
I'll do it. Second.
Susan, in favor? Opposed? You were which?
No, I'm fine, I'm in favor.
You raised a good question.
All right, Page 9, oh, no, we're not.
Committees.
Committees.
Sherry Lawn.
Okay, maybe, hopefully we can do this quick. So to codify our practices, Susan and I talked, and Pam, and thought it would be a good idea to, you know, just sort of reestablish, you know, what committees we have in place now, who's on them, you know, what their charge is, which ones we had that we don't need anymore, and have, you know, sort of a working document, so it's really clear, you know, kind of who's doing what and who's responsible for that. So, you know, we took a crack at putting together, you know, just a list of the committees and charges for the year. These are the ones that would be actively, you know, working now. So, I don't necessarily want to read it. Hopefully all of you have taken a look at it. And we can just open it up to questions or any comments on the charges as worded. Anybody?
So the only question I had is whether the committees will understand, whether we will notify them that they're gonna, when we're presenting their findings to the Parks and Rec Commission. So it will be all of them should be non-binding reports and recommendations. That's the only change I would have. But we'd also might want to consider that we will, as part of the charge, we'll notify them when their issues are before the Parks and Rec Commission if they want to attend.
Okay, do you want to?
Send you language, yeah.
Thank you. And would you do that for all of these or add it to each one? Or just have it like a?
For each one, I think we should say that they will be able to attend the Parks and Rec. They will be notified of the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting regarding their report or their recommendations, and they can voluntarily attend.
What, I got, the question for that is that we typically, with the exception of Cherry Lawn, most of the committees that I was involved in, we had to do monthly reports, like we were always on the agenda. So we could just say attend our monthly, you know, like it, you know, or do you say that chair should say, this month we're doing it, even though I do it every month, or how should it be? Like,
I think it's the final report and the final
oh, the final
recommendation.
report, okay, got
That's
it.
what I was thinking of, not an update, but at the final report and the final recommendation.
So when you,
Yes,
So
when
when
that
you go to
happens, I
final.
will send you the language. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
that
that's
they
good,
should
that's
be
better.
notified.
Yeah, that's what I meant, I was trying
Yeah.
to figure out, because you know how like sometimes like we would do for playground, we'd say, oh, we think we have a, you know what I mean, like it wasn't very developed
Yeah.
report, but what you're saying, it makes sense.
No, and they wouldn't need to come to every single meeting.
Yeah.
And they can get this normal town notice about the rest of them, but the final one, they
Yeah,
should be notified.
the one that we
and
would
attend.
say to the commission,
Yeah.
this is how we're gonna go.
Yep.
Sounds fair.
okay. And then you'll see, we also listed committees that really, you know, the work is closed, really finished or closed out. That we just wanted to acknowledge that would not continue to support. So do we want to wait and get Kathy's, this isn't really time sensitive, do we want to wait and get Kathy's updated language and vote on it next month?
Next month?
When we
Yeah,
have
that
it
sounds
cleaned up?
fair. Yeah, let's get her
Kathy?
language.
I'm sorry.
We were suggesting maybe we would get the updated kind of final language and then
Yeah,
vote on it
Yeah.
next month when it's,
yeah,
when it's cleaned
that
up.
sounds great.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
good.
we'll do that, and then Janet, that'll give you more time to,
Hopefully recruit some
assemble,
members.
assemble your
Your
committee.
army.
I have said that I'm gonna retire from the playground committee. My child is much too old.
He's done with
And
playground.
she needs young, people who have young children who play on the playground. I think that'd be a better idea.
And you and I do have those rules to fix up.
I know that too.
There's that. Okay, so we'll bring that back. Jim, as you're making a note for, as we put the agenda together, you know, too, that we want to update that for next month. Okay, director's report, the finale for Ms. Geary.
Well, I guess we can update the Wheat Beach Meadow and Trail. Went to P and Z last night.
Last night,
Was approved. However, there is a possibility of a few neighbors that may try to get an appeal. So from what I understand with Jeremy, the one particular woman who is opposing the project is not within the 100 feet of which somebody can appeal. So they have to appeal by February 9th or 10th. If they don't,
12. It's a certain amount of days once the P and Z's approval is, I think, published, which he thought was going to be Monday.
So then it's how many days from that?
Is the challenge
Right.
because the walkway is being built? Or what is the challenge?
No, this is more, they feel like they weren't notified, but everybody was notified. Not only notified by the certified letters, but also by the association president had emailed the entire association to notify everybody. So I think some people were just unaware, and then once they were made aware, then
So it's more
came
about-
in, it was more about the trees being taken down versus how many were being put in. So we just have to wait to see what happens with that. So it's good news because it went through, but it's bad news that there's potential, because if they do appeal, that it could be 6 to 8 months down the road, which would possibly affect funding.
Well, our foundation funding expires in June.
Right. So, okay, so that's,
So, just
Yep,
to
go
go
ahead.
back to that
Yep.
real quick, just to clarify. So, when, so we have to wait until February 9th for them? 12th, or so wait for that date before you can go out to get the bid package out, is that what you're saying?
yes, because we can't put the bid package out until we know that.
Until you
we
do
have
the
no-
appeal.
Right.
So that
Until you
that
through the
time
period,
where the appeal period is over?
that would always be the case.
Right.
Okay.
Which
So
are-
so even though it was approved last night, it's like almost conditional until they pass this process, this timing, this.
Right, I'm gonna talk to Kate tomorrow because, you know, Dan's ready to go. The bid should be submitted end of this week to us
Right.
for Kate to review. And we had already lined up the schedule that it would go out on January 25th.
We're not gonna do that.
But we're not, even for, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, even if you don't do the
It'll be
project,
delayed.
even if you're just getting pricing, because this is not a doing the project situation.
Right,
It's a,
because
we're just trying to figure out how much this thing is gonna cost.
Exactly, that's
So
why
we're
we're
not gonna do it before February
Yeah,
12th.
yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Just
so
wondering.
what if they appeal and they don't have grounds for appeal?
The grounds for appeal
No,
are-
what if they don't have grounds for appeal? So what if they
Then we
appeal
go
but
through
they
the
don't have grounds for
period,
appeal?
and then we'll
Go
go
into the
out to bid.
Okay.
And then
But
once
you
we-
might not have a decision on the appeal itself for a certain period of time, sorry, I'm being really.
If there was an appeal, Jeremy told me today it could take 6 to 8 months.
For a decision, even if they don't have, even if it's dismissed.
Yes, because
So-
it goes
so-
to
so you
the
still-
court. It's not
Okay,
it's not
I
going
understand.
back to getting P and Z to do anything. It goes to our town attorney, and it goes to Stamford Superior Court.
Okay.
So then attorneys get
That was kind of
involved.
my question, so even if it gets dismissed and they have no grounds for it, we still have to wait 6 to 8 months.
Just because of the timing of the court systems, yeah.
Sorry to start with that one.
Okay, Shane.
I know. We know about Pear Tree construction bid update. Pear Tree Beach Bathroom Improvement Project is, they're
Moving along.
moving along, and then none of the floor can even get done until spring
Yes,
and
too
warm
cold.
weather anyway. But I've been in touch with Jay, I put Jim in touch with Jay, so he's, he's a great contractor, and the project's in good hands.
Great, good job.
And as Susan said, the playground on Cherry Lawn, looks like the equipment is ordered, and looks like the scheduled date to come in is March, and then hopefully the grand opening would be somewhere around Memorial Day. Paddle tennis court, Jim is going to continue with that. I did go through all the approval processes to get that back up and running. And now it's just about scheduling it, whether or not the winter will allow weather to make that happen.
Got it.
So that's that. And the 500-gallon water tank, we went to bid, we had a bid opening, there was only one bidder, so Sandy's gonna be ordering that, so that's check. 3 trailers is still in the hands of Brian at DPW, so he will be the one that will give a report back to us when that gets ordered. And
What about the world?
the Whirl is supposed to be coming in around the 19th to the 22nd. So I followed up with John, yep, and I put Clint in touch with Sandy, so that when it does come in, Sandy can meet with Clint to have that installed.
The 19th of,
January 19th to 22nd.
so that's
That's
coming
like
up.
next
Coming up.
week.
That's
Yeah,
coming
it's
up.
like this, in a few days, yeah.
Okay, so
like
that's
now.
holding.
I just
Any day now.
followed it.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, I didn't really do any reports with Jim and Sandy and Cassie, as it was the holidays, and so I just kind of kept a simple report on capital improvement projects.
How about the dance?
The dance is happening. Last I knew, she had sold 150 in a few days. I'm not sure if you have a.
I think it was right in that ballpark.
Yeah,
so.
we had a quick staff meeting, and but I'm certain that as we get closer to it, that will fill up. So that's always really great.
How many do you have for tickets to sell?
I believe it's 300.
Okay.
So we're
it's-
halfway.
So you're halfway.
Yeah, and we just recently opened it up to the public. And then they're busy with the brochure right now. I wrote a nice farewell little letter in there to the community, and that's going to be scheduled to go out.
It should be at the printer early February and then in mailboxes a couple weeks later.
Okay.
Registration starts the 28th of February.
I know, isn't it crazy that we're like, summer's like around the corner?
That's great.
I know, right? It's like the end of January already, so. And again, I so appreciate all the support I've gotten from this commission. It has been a really nice run. Really, really good run. And I can't say how wonderful it has been. How many nights and days we've communicated,
Weekends.
Susan. It's
Fun stuff.
yeah, fun stuff. So I will keep in touch for sure. Anxious, I really want to see that. I put a lot of time and effort into that meadow project, and that was the very first thing, and that's when I first met Lori and Susan, and in 2015 was like, okay, figure out what to do with Short Lane. That was in 2015. And they had been at it before then, waiting for the new director to come in, so it'd be really lovely to come out here and see that work done. So I'm crossing my fingers for you, I really am. But, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let me bring it home for real. All right, see, Coastal Commission update, they did have another meeting, I was away last week. They continued to work on the waterways ordinance. I saw they kind of buttoned down some final questions they were debating. You know, one was, you know, can people have more than one mooring? Because some people do now, so there's, you know, discussion on, you know, things like that. You know. Buttoning down some of those final issues. I'll watch the full meeting back, but I did see some of the correspondence, and then that will go to selectmen. I would assume that there would be some sort of public comment period or hearing or something on that as that progresses through. Since we last met, the Great Island Advisory Committee has met twice. One was on December 20th, and then we met immediately preceding this meeting tonight. Ed Gentile and his staff are continuing to work on the process of getting the roadway widened. They went before the Architectural Review Board last night, which came up with some good suggestions on how to deal with the pillars. And the P&Z application is going in, I believe, tomorrow. A couple of folks worked on a request for qualifications. It's been determined that the way to proceed in terms of finding an architectural firm, landscape architectural firm that will help us, you know, vision the property, so to speak, is to first go out to bid effectively for firms to say, show us that you're qualified to do this project, so that we just don't go for an RFP and you're getting 75 proposals or whatever. So first would be to narrow it down to a handful of firms that we feel could even handle a project of this sort of magnitude and complexity. So that's being worked on. We kind of buttoned up some of the details on how that would read tonight, and I expect that will be going out in the near future, however they go about soliciting, you know, firms that would bid on this type of work. So getting lots of big books and going through an interview process to narrow down the field of firms who then could come in and actually do an RFP on how they would help the town build out, you know.
Smart idea.
Build out with a small b, you know, like what are we going to do with the property. The other piece has been there's discussion of allowing folks to get onto the property, and the way this has to be approved by the selectmen next week, but I worked with some other members of the committee on this over the holidays and for the last few weeks. Talked about the pros and cons. It was agreed that to at least allow people to walk on the property would be a good idea, so we put together some basic rules which we discussed tonight, what to be approved, but until the road construction begins, which they're hoping would be sort of April, May-ish, it will, the proposal is, as it has to be, so it would be foot traffic only, not even bicycles. And just on what's now the paved road, so not have people kind of wandering off in the woods or out to the water or whatever, but just could do the loop, which is, I think Ed said tonight, it's like 1.2 miles if you go and walk around. So these people can get on the property, start getting a feel for it, kind of a sense of it, but without kind of going all over the place. So fairly limited initially, and then really we almost immediately then need to start, say, okay, once the road is done and the property's opened up in July, what are the more fulsome rules going to be? And then, you know, all the things we talk about in our park rules, you know, in terms of, you know, gatherings and this and that, and everything will have to be.
But it's walkable as of now?
Soon, if the selectmen approve it.
Okay.
Soon, we're hoping to get it soon. And then one reason was, the more liberties you give people, then there may have been more things that have to be done to prepare for those liberties, so that could slow it down. And the thinking was that let's just get people just get on and walk, rather than say, okay, well, if they're going to do this, we have to do that, we have to put a fence up here, we have to block this off, things like that, that would slow down people getting on there.
And how long will the renters be staying there?
Indefinitely, as far as I know.
Income.
Yeah.
It's income.
But just interesting with the public going kind of through their
Well, and that's
backyards.
the thing, in the rules we had to talk about, you know, you have to say so many for the residents, but we feel like we're gonna have to get some signs up pretty quickly saying, you know, private, you know, residents or whatever, don't go any closer than this. So there'll still be a few things that the public works teams has to do, but again, we had some pretty robust discussions about it. You know, and even we had questions with a bigger group tonight, but it was feeling, is it better to let people get on there in some way, shape, or form sooner
with more limited access as opposed to more work, there would be more work to done, and then you're getting so close to the construction period that you're like, kind of why bother? So it's definitely a balancing act, and when you have people on the property, there's always a risk of a problem. And now emergency vehicle access tree, that's a one-lane road, and if you have somebody coming out with a horse trailer or something, and all of a sudden an ambulance needs to get in, you can't. So.
And any discussion about, just in what, like, once I leave and I'm gone, is that I put in that proposal to Kate about the park crew?
Nothing, there's, no, not at the committee level, no.
So I have to keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
Discussions.
So hopefully in the fairly near future, all of us, myself included, can actually at least go for a walk there. Even the committee members aren't allowed on the property without permission, so that is what is happening there. Oh, back to Coastal Commission, I forgot to mention, they did ask that Dan Biggs and Mike Scrow present sort of a refresher on the Pear Tree Point approved project. That will happen on February 12th. So if you all forget what that's about, you can either come listen or it'll be recorded and you can watch it after the fact. But they just felt, you know, the town needs to start thinking about applying for permits for dredging, and that links in because there is some dredging approval in that. So it seemed like a nice linkage, so they will be doing that. So that be aware. In terms, I know a few of you inquired me about the timeline for replacing Pam in the process. The job description has already been posted and sent out to wherever those things are sent out to. And applicants would need to apply by February 1st. From there, I believe the town staff, Kate, whatever, will start culling that down to a group of 6, and then there'll be a more expansive interview process. A number of people, myself included, would be asked to interview sort of the top 6 candidates. That will be winnowed down to 3, with the 3 finalists would be interviewed by the Board of Selectmen. And then based on, background checks and notice periods and etc. Kate was hopeful, a person would be named. She put April 1st. She said could be sooner depending on how much notice period the person has to give in their current job.
Before the summer, hopefully.
But hopefully before the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And Pam, you seem to think there's, a job that you successfully secured. There were quite a few applicants.
Oh, I would think there's going to be a lot of applicants for a 4-day work week with that salary. Yes.
Oh. So we'll see, but
There's
it
not
is
many,
open.
there's only 3, I think there's only 3 towns in Connecticut that have 4-day. So it's very, very attractive. I think that that's a really big pool. And I'm hopeful you'll get the right person.
So that's what's happening. Jim is acting director starting, I guess, after tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Or not.
Yeah.
He's been there before.
Yep, been there before. He's done the job before, so that's it. And the only last thing I remembered is on January 30th, the Parks and Rec budget will be discussed by the Board of Selectmen. They set out a bunch of evenings and handle 3, 4, 5 different department budgets in a night. And we are that night. Jim, I'm assuming you'll be there to represent the budget. I definitely will be there. It's great to have support.
Okay.
On the 30th, right?
January 30th. I think it's like 5 or 5:30. It's early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5:30.
5:30. It's early. And I don't know that we're first necessarily.
Probably not.
But I usually will make a few comments, whether they want me to or not, just because I kind of feel it should be there supporting the budget. I think we're going to need to talk about things like funding, for Weed Beach. We're going to have to get a feeling for what they're thinking about the Pear Tree project. Pam has in the budget, an add to staff, so things like that. I usually like to
I don't have
touch
that
on.
in there anymore.
Oh.
That was removed. Because it was really based on my vision.
Oh.
So they agreed to that the new director should get in there and decide whether that's a vision that they have.
Okay, thank you for sharing that
Sorry.
tidbit. But then that wouldn't be this year.
No, and so the
No.
45,000 and the 45,000 for the invasive removal and the beautification is still in there, but Kate, asked a lot of questions. She didn't say that we had enough really concrete material to back that number up, but, so we'll see what she puts in. I think the idea was that we were gonna put in more anyway, not necessarily knowing whether we were gonna get it or not.
Well, we may
but-
have to back it up. I mean, we did the invasive tour and we pretty much every property we hit, we identified
Right.
problems and it may be more than the staff can handle.
But I think
So-
that's something that would be really effective with showing support at the budget meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about that some more. Okay. All right, so yeah, if you can be there, it's it's helpful to show that, this is important to all of us. So that's all I had, obviously, between our last meeting and this one, we had the holidays, so got a little bit of a break. So not quite as much as usual. So I think that's it. So, do we have any new business? Seeing none, then we can take a motion to adjourn. Kathy?
I think I always make the motion.
Here, second? Jim? Okay, all in favor? Okay, you're out of here.
9:48.
Oh, it's not 10 o'clock.